Barcelona were starting with a short press from the goal kick, and Barcelona were building the game in the back three in the first phase. Barca's centre-backs were split alongside goalkeeper, and Barca's fullbacks were providing width by staying high and wide. Barca were using sole pivot, and he was getting covered from City's number 9, so the passing lane of Barca's pivot was getting blocked, and Barca were not able to build the game from the centre. So Barca's only possible route was the long balls. In the first phase, Man City pressing with front 4 when necessary, otherwise City were pressing with front 3. In the first phase, the center midfielder was joining the front line and making front 4 when necessary. Barca's pivot was centrally isolated, so Barca were preferring to build the game from wide. The fullback of Barca were providing width by staying high and wide in the first phase. With City's midfield being central, Barca's fullback were easily receiving the ball in the wide zone when the goalkeeper was attempting a long ball from goal kick. With Man City front 4 being high, the front 4 were easily bypassed when the goalkeeper was attempting the long ball. Now City's defensive midfielder Philip was 2 vs 1 down in front of Sergio Roberto and Frank Kessie. With the fullback free, the defensive midfielder was dragging wide and space was created for the center midfielder and Aubameyang. When this scenario kept happening, City's 6 played out of game, and now Barca were 4 vs 4 in transition. When Barca were in transition, the right back was ready to run overlap or underlap, and in the final third, City was being caught in 4 vs 4 situation. In open play, Barca were building the game in traditionally back 4. Barca's fullback were providing width by staying high and wide. In open play, City were defending in 4-5-1 formation. City's winger were dropping in and joining the midfield. The reason for City's winger to drop in midfield was that when Barca's fullback were received the ball, they could cover them. If City's winger were staying high, fullback were easily bypass wingers. In open play, Barca's midfield was 3 vs 3 in front of City's midfield. Silva on Frenkie de Jong, Palmer on Kessie, and Philip on Busquets. So Barca's midfield was centrally isolated. Man City's front man was 2 vs 1 down in front of Barca's centre backs, and he was unable to press the centre backs well. So when the centre backs had the ball, the center midfielder was ready to press the centre back. The center midfielder was high and he was out of position. The fullback was committed on the winger, so Barca center midfielder was free in half space to receive the ball. Kessie was free. Seeing Kessie free, the defensive midfielder was committing to Kessie, and due to the defensive midfielder being out of position, space was being created in the midfield. In open play, Frenkie de Jong was dropping in and making back 3. There was a solidity in the defense due to Frenkie de Jong drop in. Because Frenkie de Jong joined the back line, the fullback had a license to push high. City's fullback was 2 vs 1 down due to fullback pushing high. The winger was moving half space and he was dragging City's fullbacks. Man City were building the game in back 4 in the first phase. Centre back Ruben Dias was split alongside to the goalkeeper and centre back Kyle Walker, and fullback was providing width by staying high and wide. Man City were using double pivots in the first phase. Fullback was temporary pivot with Phillips. Barcelona were pressing with sole man in the first phase, and Aubameyang was 2 vs 1 down in front of the goalkeeper and centre back. City's pivots were under pressure in front of Barca's second line. Man City's pivots were 3 vs 2 down in first phase, so City were having trouble building the game from the centre. Like I said, in the first phase, the right back was inverted, and after a while, the left back was also playing in inverted fullback role. So in this way, City were building the game in back 3. In the first phase, both City's inverted fullback were being marked man-to-man by Kessie and Varane. So both fullbacks of City were isolated and City was unable to build the game centrally. Man City were building the game in 2-3-5 formation in open play. Man City's 2 offensive midfielders were operating in the half space zone, and City were attacking with front 5. Both Man City's fullback were inverted with the defensive midfielder. Barca's defensive shape was 5-4-1 formation. Frenkie de Jong was joining the back line from the midfield. Both Barca's wingers were joining the midfield, and City's midfield was 4 vs 3 down in front of Barca's midfield. Barcelona were 4 vs 3 in the midfield, so Barca could afford a player to high press. So when Man City's centre backs had the ball, Frank Kessie was ready to press left centre back and Aubameyang was ready to press right centre back. So City's centre back were not comfortable with the ball. So because of that, Man City did not have a central route. Due to the absence of central route, City's offensive midfielder was dropping in and he was being tracked back by wide players.